And then I'm assuming we're going to want to take everyone out, maybe, or are you going to have everyone in to begin with?
I will probably take everyone out except for the first speaker. I'll bring the first speaker in.
Sure.
Each of you need to share your screen that you're going to have slides on, please. And Thomas, would you like to go first?
Yes.
Okay. Mate, would you like to go second?
Me? Yeah, sure.
Brian?
That works for me.
Third, okay.
Let me move StreamYard to the second window.
Stefan?
Yep.
Welcome. You will be fourth.
Okay.
Okay. So we're ready whenever.
And Brian, got your screen up there.
I just removed it.
Oh, no, that's fine. All right.
Should we mute ourselves until we're on, or how does that work?
No,
I'm going to remove you from the stream here in just a moment, but I can't hear you talk when I do that. So,
Right.
We're just going to introduce you, and we're going to make it casual and easy. This is always a fun time, right? And a casual time. One of the hard things with doing lightning talks, probably in this format, is that we wouldn't have any feedback. And so, Celine and JF have volunteered to be our feedback. They are your panel. They will be on screen with you, laughing at your corny jokes and whatnot. Okay.
Good. Thank you.
motivating look. I will introduce them. I will poll you all on one at a time. When it's your time, it'll just be no slides yet. We'll just talk for a moment. I'll put the slide on. I'll leave the screen. When I leave, you can start your lightning talk. If you go over the 5 minutes, I'll probably end up just muting you and coming on and feeling sorry about it, but not too sorry.
Okay. Do we have a timer that we can see, or should I just keep my phone around?
Unfortunately, at this moment, you'll have to probably keep a phone around because
All right. I'll do the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And Michael, I will be, obviously we won't be able to talk, but you can speak to me through private chat if you need anything here in StreamYard. I will put the card up. If you want to take everyone out now, other than whoever you want in there to begin with, I'll put this card up here. And then when I bring it down like that, that will be your cue to start.
Welcome to CppCon 2020 Lightning Talks, in which we would normally be wandering around on the stage and having just a raucous time together. And with this virtual and having a harder time being able to interact, we're going to do something new this year. We're going to have a panel. And on our panel, we've got Celine and JF. Your panel is going to give you the encouragement you need in order to make it through your corny jokes and to give a great presentation. So I think for our first get-go here, this is going to be all Rocky. You will, I'm sure, send hate mail later because I did something wrong, but try to be kind as you do so. Our first speaker this evening is going to be Thomas.
Hello.
Thomas, are you enjoying the conference so far?
Excuse me?
Are you enjoying the conference so far?
Yes, a lot.
Yeah?
It's a bit new. It's my first CppCon, so I'm a bit excited and anxious, but I'm enjoying myself.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, what we're going to do is go ahead and put your slide up here. I'm going to leave the stream, and you're going to dazzle all of us with your lightning talk. You ready?
Ready.
All right.
So, hello everyone. I'm Thomas Lourcer. I work for Thales in Paris, France, and I will be talking to you today about how many languages a C++ expert should speak. So the first question we must ask yourself is, why learning other languages than C++? Well, everyone has his own opinion about this, but I'll bring you 2 points. The first of it is, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you only know C++, you can only think in terms of C++, and that's a bad thing in my opinion. And second point, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Indeed, if you want to refactor code from and into C++, you need to know other things. So, the question, should I learn other languages? Of course you do. That's not the real question. The real question is, how many other languages should you learn? And to answer that, I made a little chart in 4 points in which we will iterate and categorize each languages you know, and it will help us to describe how to learn more of it. The first level is expert level. So that's why we're here. We are almost all C++ expert, but expertise is very time consuming, and it's okay if you're not an expert in everything. So I'll bring the second level is practical. There are languages you tried in your life and loved and you practice regularly. I have several examples. Myself, I practice Python, Bash, C, and other things. Third level is languages you practice in your life, but you don't really like and you don't practice every day for other reasons. For instance, I practice a lot Java in my scholarship, but I don't really like this. But I could come back to it because I know how to document myself. And the final category is the hello world level, when you just do a hello world, put it on your CV, and that's all. That's not really knowing a language. So the useful part, the useful zone, is the first 3 levels, which will be useful in your life as a C++ expert. And the question we will ask is how to promote languages from one level to another. So becoming an expert is very time consuming, and it's not worth it to become an expert in other language for the sake of C++. You can't force yourself to practice a language you don't like every day just because you want to become better at it. You won't manage if you do something you don't like. However, one thing you can do is document yourself about everything. You can choose to be curious and practice a little, even if you don't like. That's not bad. You will know how it works. And I think it's the most efficient way to be polyvalent. So, as a conclusion, to answer the initial question, how many languages should a C++ expert speak? I mean, as much as their curiosity can bring them. In my opinion, curiosity is the most important trait of an expert, and as long as you are curious, you will always go forward, be it in C++ or any other language. So that's what drives me to be here today at the CppCon, and I hope you are all curious about it too. And that will conclude my lightning talk. Thank you, everyone, and be curious.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, our next speaker. Let's see. Matthew, I think I added you as the next speaker. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can see myself in the feedback. Incredible.
It's cool. Isn't it awesome?
It's incredible what technology can do these days.
Tell me, are you enjoying the conference?
Yeah, I'm having a great time. I just enjoying a glass of wine, looking at the talks. It's 11 now in Stockholm, so it's fine.
This is actually, I think, one of the advantages here of virtual. I mean, you would not have been able to bring your glass of wine into the auditorium during lightning talks normally, would you?
I mean, I don't know. Am I on record?
Not officially, right? So,
I mean, I never been caught.
and was there a talk that you saw today that stood out?
I really like Simon's recap and introduction over everything composition. I thought it was a great refresher on everything. And I also like the STL thing. It's incredible to see what everything they can do by just going open source.
Okay. Well, it's time for you to talk about unicorns. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, damn, we spoiled it. All right, let me just put my counter on, if my phone wants it. All right, there we go. All right, so I heard some of you guys like unicorns. So I'm thinking maybe we could talk about unicorns this evening, or this afternoon, or this morning, depending on where you are in the world. But, you know, oh, sorry, it won't shock it. There we go. Since I work for a company that loves to make history games and nerd stuff about history, I'm going to take a historical perspective on unicorn. The first reference to unicorn that
we're already having technical difficulties. Look at this. I mean, this is almost like when I used to plug in my old Linux machine and then we would lose the overhead projector and everybody goes, oh, it's because you're running Linux instead of a Mac. And then I bought a Mac and it still happened to me. But then
did my share die? Did my share die?
I don't know what happened to your share.
Yeah. Oh, I know what happened. I clicked space to pass the next slide, and instead it clicked on the share screen button on the second screen.
We should try again. Panel. Do you think this is an attempt to get a little bit more time? Do we reset the time?
I think so.
You're killing my vibe now. Oh, damn.
Okay,
I think it's
all right. I'm gonna try to use the click button to avoid accidents this time. Is it dead again?
You removed it again. It's just like that. It is gone.
No. Okay, let's try a third time.
Maybe
I think I know what's wrong this time. Don't worry about it. I will. Yes. And now it should be on.
Okay, look at that. That expert training.
It's back. It's back. No. You see that it's not my first CppCon, right?
Yes. It's not.
All right. Sorry. Let's go at it again. So I was saying, go. So I feel like you guys want to maybe have some fun and talk about unicorns, because I heard some of you like unicorns. But again, I come from a company that likes to do nerd stuff with history, so I'm going to take a historical perspectives on unicorns. The first historical marker I could find about unicorns actually goes back to the Indus Valley civilization, which, as we all know, is one of the three first civilizations recorded today, along with ancient Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia. And thousands of years ago already, people were using unicorns as a mark of a high social rank and possibly like a clan sigil. This later on translated to the Greeks, and the first mention we can find in the Greeks is by Ctesias, who wrote a book about India, which he basically never went to. He literally heard stories about people from Persia and wrote everything as natural history. Most of whatever he wrote has been debunked since. You can see a bunch of illustration of the kind of stuff he talked about. But somehow unicorns went through that, and Aristotle and other philosophers continue bringing it up as natural history. That brings us to the medieval ages, which, of course, when you have to take a legend in the medieval ages, you have to put Jesus there somewhere. So it became a symbol of purity and chastity, and it comes closer to the myth of the unicorn we have today. It basically mixed up with an allegory of the incarnation. And then the rulers started catching up on that. For example, the king of Denmark claims to have a throne made of unicorn horns. You can actually see that today in Copenhagen. Of course, it's not made of actual unicorn's horn. It's actually made of narwhal tusks that he bought from the Norwegians, which was actually a common medieval scam back in the days. You would be sold like what's supposed to be a miracle powder of unicorn horn, and it turned out to be just narwhal tusks. But the Renaissance comes by, and we start having men of discovery that try to figure out. So Marco Polo, for example, during his travels, tries to find the source of unicorns, and he claims to have seen one. But he comes back and says, guys, this is not what you thought. I saw them, and they're ugly brutes. They are not at all such as we described them. And if you follow his discovery, you figure out that actually he just never seen a rhinoceros before in his life. And that's what he thought was a unicorn. So much for great discovery. But maybe we can be saved by Leonardo, the greatest inventor and scientist and just overall great man of his time. who actually, I don't know, one day was born and devised a way to capture a unicorn that survives to us today in manuscript. He said, you bait it with a virgin, then you wait for it to go to sleep, and then you just catch it. And that's it. Come on, Leo, man. You're the guy who invented like tanks in the 15th, 16th century. You invented airplanes and helicopters. You wrote a book about anatomy. You painted the Mona Lisa. And the best thing you can come up with is this. I'm disappointed. But seriously, though, what's the most important thing about unicorn? And I'm sorry to say this, but it's that they don't exist. It's true. They don't exist. Yet somehow, I keep hearing people talk as if they do. In every industry I ever went through, I heard people saying stuff like, oh, this problem is unique to us. Oh, our industry has unique answers that nobody else ever had. You come from X, you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. And then they go on and they reason that, saying, you know what? Nobody else has performance constraints. Nobody else has multiple disciplines collaborating on the product. Nobody else has deadline or difficult customers. Nobody else has weird platform. It's only us. And so there's a bunch of things that other people do that we can't have because we're unique. We can't have C++ 11, 14, 17, 20, pick your flavor. We can't have third-party libraries. We can't have unit testing. We can't have agile. We can't have continuous integration. We can't have continuous delivery because we're unicorns, and unicorns have their own unique problems that nobody ever had. Except you're not a unicorn. You're just making bad excuses. Because chances are someone else in the world had similar issues. You can ask John to give statistics. There are, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, maybe C++ developer in the world. Chances are somebody else found your problem and solved it. So what I'm saying to you is look outwards, talk to your peers, including outside of your industry. Watch talks, read blogs, go to conferences. You're in the right place right here to continue on that and share your findings, of course. Because your alternative is end up like this. Thank you.
All right. I'm a little worried. The Silicon Valley is just some number of miles down the road, and if they found this out, there would be a lot of us that wouldn't have jobs. So maybe we won't share this too broadly.
Yeah, maybe cut the stream now.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. With that, we're going to boot you out of the stream. See ya.
Wow.
Yeah.
See you.
Sorry. We're going to bring Brian in. Brian.
Hey.
First for CppCon?
No, I've been coming since 2015.
Yeah. So a long time attendee.
Yep. Yeah.
And go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Talks this conference. What do you think?
So far, so good. Like, I really enjoy the fact that the talks are kind of being streamed. This morning, I watched the talk while on the treadmill, which there's no way I would be doing that if I was in Denver.
Impressive.
Yeah. But it is kind of sad not to see everybody in person. Like the whole experience of being at the hotel kind of with everybody was something you really can't replace.
That's true. Yeah, I had that whole though. Oh, go ahead, Celine. Did you have a comment about whether or not you could be replaced? You're grabbing that drink of water. That's what was happening. I have to admit, I kind of felt like almost that first night of the conference when I was sitting there in the hallway area after the reception for hours and hours talking to people that I didn't actually, I never met before. So while this is not ideal, I'm pretty impressed with the ability.
Oh yeah. What they've been able to pull off has been amazing.
Brian, let's go ahead and add your slides here.
Okay.
And I'm going to disappear and start your timer. Ready, go?
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Brian Ruth. I'm a software engineer at Garmin, and I'm going to be talking about drinking from the fire hose, keeping up with the ever-evolving landscape of C++. So things have changed in technology since I started as a professional programmer about a decade and a half ago. Drastically. Not only has it become part of everyone's daily lives, even more so now, but the languages and technologies and tools that we use to develop this technology has changed drastically as well. And C++ is no exception. So when I started out, C++98 was state of the art and almost 760 pages in that standard. And as you saw, 03, okay, 11, 14, 17, and now the latest standard of 20 is almost 1,800 pages. So as somebody who is just a programmer who works on projects for a company, not necessarily a maintainer or standards committee member, how do you go about keeping up with this? How do you know what the current best practices are, what you need to use in your project, what should you stop using in your project? Well, I'm going to share a few tips to kind of help me get through this, but by far this is not the most exhaustive list. So first of all is you got to come to terms with you don't have to know everything. As a senior engineer, part of my job is teaching people about C++, how to use the code, how to do things, the best way to do things. And from time to time, you start getting this imposter syndrome of, oh man, I didn't know that. I don't know about those things. And nothing is more humbling than sitting in a room, or nowadays virtual room, with a whole bunch of junior engineers trying to teach them how to do something, spend 15, 20 minutes describing the what's and why's and how's, only at the end to have one of them raise their hand and say, well, why didn't you try doing this other thing? It's so much easier, and have them be right. If you just kind of internalize that you don't have to know everything, it's okay to ask questions and to not know, you'll open yourself up to learn from many different people and places. But one of the problems with any industry or hobby or technology is things have names. And those names exist to express very complicated idioms or terms or ideas in a very short, concise manner. So in order to look things up, and you need to know what they're called. And C++ has its share of weird names: RAII, CRTP, RVO, and Safine, to name a few. But you don't necessarily need to know this, the details or the underlying definition in its entirety of all of these things. Simply just knowing the name of something is going to be enough. Take Safine, for example. You don't need to know what it stands for or exactly how it implements everything, but being able to know that it has something to do with templates, if the compiler sees an error, did a compilation, I mean, that should be enough to into Google, Stack Overflow, or be able to ask questions and be able to figure out what that stuff actually means. But with everything coming in, how do you know what name you need to know? So for this, you got to find a reliable filter. For every little esoteric corner of every technology or every single hobby, there is somebody who is shouldered in that little thing, and they were just itching to tell you about it. So take advantage of their enthusiasm. So things like podcasts, conferences like this, like take a look what the people at the conferences are talking about. That's give you a pretty good idea of what other people think are the most important things coming to the language. And don't feel that you need to keep up with this. Like if you poke into Slack, once every couple of weeks, read about 20 messages and pop out, that's good. You don't have to be there every day monitoring every single DM or message. Meetups, books, blogs, mailings, there's just an infinite way to go about finding a reliable filter. And just reading about these things and watching the videos, that's one way for you to be informed. But until you really teach other people, flip the script and start trying to describe what you know, how you know it to someone else, whether it's in a conference like this, a local meetup group, trainings at work. That's when you really kind of have to start articulating what you know and how you know it. And if you're not up for talking to someone in public, try writing it down for yourself. I mean, odds are you're probably going to forget about what you're learning right now eventually anyway. So if you try and externalize that information, not only will you understand it better now, but you'll be able to help yourself out in the future. So summarize, accept not knowing, know the true names of things, apply some filters, and teach. Thanks.
All right. Really great input. I know I'm getting overwhelmed by the constant releases that are coming, and there's so much coming out in each of the languages. Really great input. Thank you.
Yeah, it's tough. But I guess one of the nice things is, doing embedded work, you're generally a few generations of compilers behind. So
the upside of that.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Brian.
Thanks.
Stefan.
Hey there.
Welcome. And What I am missing at the moment are your slides. If you can go ahead and somehow get those in.
I need to find those indeed. And
I can slide too if you
need
want.
to get you folks out of the way.
All right, thank you. And you are a previous presenter for certain.
I've had my fair share of your technical difficulties, yes.
Yeah. Probably even during lightning talks. All right, I'm being told that I'm running over because I chat too much. And maybe our chatting that goes on should be part of your 5 minutes. I don't know what you think. All right.
Okay.
So go ahead and tell us what you have.
Okay. I'm Stefan Tjärnström from Susquehanna, and I'm going to talk about what's my object, and the noises in the background are courtesy of my kitten. So first I need to, there we go, have some disclosures out of the way. And systems in computing these days generally are lots of communicating tasks. If we get it right, they all talk to each other, but talking to each other means that we have to have messages. And in a real system, that can be hundreds, if not thousands, of different message types. So how do we represent those messages? Well, since C++17, we've had a vocabulary type, std variant. And the problem with std variant is that we don't have a control as a user over the serialization layout on the wire for it. So if we send a message from an ARM box running Linux to a Windows box on IA32, we're probably not going to be happy. Also, there's an awful lot of boilerplate code involved in std variant. And that means that we have to auto-generate huge files. And whilst auto-generation is a really, really good thing, when your file reaches over 1 million lines of code, just the compile time alone is staggering. And as we know, std visit is just everything that's wrong with modern C++. So we could try doing the C way with the good old discriminated union. And we still have to generate all those millions of lines of header files, because now we have to wrap everything in classes and so forth, yada, yada. But the big problem with the discriminated union is that the size depends on the maximum message size of a message, not the actual message size. Now, normally, most messages are fairly short, 10 to 20 bytes maybe, but there's guaranteed to be one that's going to be humongously big that occurs once a day, and it could be a megabyte or two. So that doesn't work. And as Bjarne showed in his keynote, there's active research going on as to how to generate individual messages in the same manner. And one way that's fairly common is just to examine bytes one at a time. But the problem is that that's fraught. It leads to a whole mess of aliasing violations that are just undefined behavior, and we'd rather not go there. But there was a paper, P593, that really helps in this. Basically, what it enables is that it says that for a set of magical functions, such as memset, if you reinterpret cast into that buffer, it's as if the object that you're reinterpreting to already exists in that spot, which means that we can pull out our message header straight out of a plain byte buffer, and we're perfectly okay. We can inspect into the object, its defined behavior, everything works. The problem is, as soon as we try to make sense from that header type and go to a different type for the message, all bets are off. We're back in pointer aliasing, and we're now in undefined behavior land. So yes, we could reinterpret cast from the known size of the header into the rest of the buffer, but now we have to know how far into the buffer to go, and it's fraught. So reinterpret cast on its own, aliasing, undefined behavior. My kitten has now had puppies, and we're off. There is std bitcast, but that's really no use because it requires that the from and to types are equally sized. And that's not the case with generic messages, so can't use that. Well, there is a missing piece. 593 had two sections. there was the language piece, which got accepted into C++20. And there is a library piece, which has a medical function that's now called start lifetime as, was originally known as bless. But it didn't quite make it into C++20. And I wasn't in the room, so I don't know why, but I'm guessing just time. The issue here is that it occurs in a to-be-determined paper for the wording. So until that paper exists, we're left stranded. But we're almost there. As long as the types involved are trivially copyable and has implicit lifetime, start lifetime as will work for us. And with a little bit of extra work, it'll even do magical things with map-like containers and other special cases. For details, CP 593. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm a little sad. I really liked it when it was called Blessed, to be quite honest. So, can't have
That was
everything.
too short.
All right, we're going to bring on our last speaker. Connor, welcome.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Fine. I see you're proudly wearing that shirt, and you got an arm.
Good tool.
2 arms.
Nope.
Bad.
Yes, I do have personally 2 arms.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, that didn't work. Not so much. All right. I want to know though. Do you have like red wine or something going on there? Because the style of this conference is one that we can just for me.
A water bottle.
Water bottle. I have a taco because it is Taco Tuesday. And, what is that, Jeff? Yeah?
I have a water bottle as well, yeah.
Okay, well. Oh.
Is that oatmeal?
Oatmeal late in the evening?
It was either potato chips or oatmeal. I'm not sure which one.
Connor, are you ready to dazzle us?
I am. I'm hoping I can satisfy the viewers, one in particular.
Oh, okay. This is a lightning talk for one person.
It is basically for one person. I hope everyone enjoys it, but it's targeted at one person. Let's see if you can figure out who by the end.
Okay, I'm going to enjoy my taco while you talk. Go ahead.
All right. Welcome to my CppCon 2020 lightning talk entitled CppC Cover Demystified. My name's Connor Hoekstra. I go by code_report online. The structure and interpretation of computer programs has been touted to be the best computer science book in the world. And I'm giving a talk on this on Friday, all about this textbook and what we can learn from it in C++. I tweeted out about a week and a half ago that I was giving this talk, and a certain individual responded to this tweet asking, what's an eval apple? And that individual is JF Bastian, C++'s own troll. I replied, very funny, JF. You and I both know it is eval apply, although from the lower res image, it does look a little bit like apple. JF responded, I'm pretty sure it's an eval apple, Connor. Any like, why does he have chopsticks? What's that sunny easel? Why is there a pot on the table? Weird book overall, in my very honest opinion. I'm looking forward to understanding all of it from your talk. I responded at this point the only way that anyone should really respond to JF on Twitter, and that was with a meme, because at this point I'm pretty frustrated. And JF continued to reply, I expect answers to these questions in your talk, Connor. I have very high hopes that by the end I'll understand the entire book's cover. Enter this lightning talk.
I do. Yeah.
Here's my lightning talk. Be quiet, JF. So we hope to answer JF's questions here. So without further ado, we're going to start by looking at the back of the textbook. Ben Dean was the one that pointed this out to me. And if we zoom in, it says cover images adapted from, I apologize for my terrible French, Le Moyen Âge et la Renaissance, which is a book that was published in 1849. Wow. And if we flip through this book, we can find some alchemists on a certain page. And if we zoom in on these alchemists, we will find that we might be able to recognize these two individuals from the cover of our book. So here they are side by side. Hopefully you can see the similarity. And so who are these individuals? Well, if we look at the name of the PNG where these pages were taken, the first thing we'll notice is that the first one says Alchemists of the Renaissance, which is a translation of text at the bottom of the page, Les Alchimistes du Moyen Âge. Technically, Moyen Âge translates to Middle Ages, but we'll say Renaissance. So these two individuals are alchemists, or what I'm pretty sure the authors were going for, wizards. So we'll call them wizards. Their two names are Hermes and Raymond. And if we go to Wikipedia, we can find that Hermes was the Greek god of interpretive communication, and Raymond was a pioneer of computation theory. So there's some slight similarities there. You can see why they might have chosen these wizards. And if we compare the names of the authors of the textbook to the names of the alchemists, we will note that the second letter of both Gerald and Hal correspond to the second letters of Hermes and Raymond. So pretty clearly, Hermes is a representation for the wizard form of Gerald Sussman, and Raymond is a representation for the wizard form of Hal Abelson. This is further supported by the fact that in Lecture 7A of the MIT Lecture Series, free, available online, as well as the book, which is also free, we can see Gerald here wearing a hat and a cape similar to Hermes. So it's basically confirmed at this point that Hermes is Sussman. And the last point that supports this is that Gerald Sussman was the co-creator of Scheme, which is a dialect of Lisp, which is an interpreted language. So interpretive communication, interpreted language. That leaves Hal Abelson as Raymond. And all we have to do is go to Stack Overflow to fill in the last pieces of information. So we'll see here that the lizard, what was previously a lizard, is now a lambda. It's not a sunny easel. This stands for knowledge. The table has a demon foot. That's because the table represents COBOL, which is a less beautiful language. And the pot on top of the table represents the riches that can be attained by coding business applications in COBOL. If we switch over to the left-hand side, JF referred to these as chopsticks. They're not chopsticks. It's a caliper. And this represents the tool we use to code in Lisp. How do we know this? Well, a subset of the letters of caliper are LPER, which when rearranged spell REPL, the tool that we use to code in Lisp. So once again, to recap, the lambda stands for knowledge, the table stands for COBOL, the pot stands for riches, the caliper stands for REPL, the tool we use to code in Lisp, and most importantly, Hermes and Raymond are the wizard forms of Sussman and Abelson, and you can become a wizard too if you attend my talk on Friday and get the Grand Wizard pin of the MIT CppCon course. Hope you're satisfied, JF. Thank you.
My mind is blown.
Absolutely amazing.
Hats off to you, sir.
Wow. JF, is there anything else you'd like to add to all of this?
I mean, I thought lizards were millennials, but I guess it's people who use functional languages are lizard people, is where it's at.
Functional language. Yeah, amazing. Once again, Connor pulls off and extracts knowledge that none of the rest of us could even imagine was there. Very impressive. Thank you, Connor. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
That ends our lightning talks for the first session. I want to thank our panelists, Jeff and Celine. Thank you very much for, I know there was a slight lag in how the tech works here, but we'll see if we can work on that for the next night. Hope everybody who's watching will join us for lightning talks again tomorrow before the conference, and again after the conference. If you haven't submitted a lightning talk yet, please do so, and enjoy a taco.